What is up, guys? Wrestling Premiere is here. Now, it's often said that anything can happen in the WWE. Now, it doesn't really relate to the current era, but back then, well, anything could happen. This feud in itself is proof of that. In any form of entertainment, you won't find something as crazy as this feud. The fact that they literally hung a child's custody papers 20 feet in the air and allowed two men to fight over it. Like, nothing can top that in my book in terms of ridiculousness. There was a bunch of wild stuff that happened during this feud. I love the layers in Eddie's heel character, as he didn't really want Dominic. He wanted to beat Rey Mysterio, a thing he struggled with for a couple of months. It was eating him up. He didn't know how this little man could just beat him every single time. Like, he's beating giants like the Big Show, Brock Lesnar, so what was the problem with Rey Mysterio? Well, in this video, I try to figure out why Eddie couldn't beat Rey, and I'll cover the entire story too. Now, what did you guys think of this feud? Comment down below. Was it too wild, bad story, good story? Please comment down below. And by the way, if this video gets 2,000 likes, then I will make the John Cena title reign 2007 one. If it gets 2K likes, I will definitely make it. With that said, right now, let's get into it. Now, a little context. Rey Mysterio at this point was really going to be a big star. He was so damn popular. He had the little camera. He's recording the crowd, the 619 cam, and there was no doubt over Rey's talent and star power. Some, though, doubted his ability to hold the world title. Nonetheless, Rey was loved by almost everyone during this time period. And as for Eddie Guerrero, he didn't feel like holding the title again. His time as a WWE champion was exhausting physically and mentally, and he wasn't ready for that kind of workload again. So, he was a semi-main eventer. These two did interact occasionally on SmackDown, but up to this point, they were remembered best for their stories in WCW. Now, I personally watched the Halloween Havoc match for the first time a couple of months ago. I'm a dumbass for watching it recently, and damn, it was breathtaking the way Mysterio takes flight, Eddie working as a sleazy heel, Rey switching moves in the air, literally mid-air, he's switching the moves. Wow, it's a reminder of why Rey Mysterio is one of the greatest ever. I'm at a loss of words to describe that match, and I can't really do it justice. You gotta go watch it if you haven't. It's up there with my favorite matches ever, and I don't really have that many of them. Now, in WCW, Eddie Guerrero actually did beat Rey Mysterio on a couple occasions. Eventually, Guerrero seeked Rey Mysterio. The reason why? Well, he wanted every luchador in WCW to join the newly formed LWO. On the November 16, 1998 episode of Nitro, after many failed opportunities to get him on his side, Eddie Guerrero finally beat Rey Mysterio Jr. What this meant was that Rey was forced to join the Latino World Order. Initially, Rey wasn't excited to be a part of the group, but over time he felt loyal to them, and when they were forced to split by the NWO, they actually felt affectious towards the LWO. This would end up costing him, as at Super Brawl 9, Rey Mysterio Jr. lost his mask in a wager match against the Outsiders. As you can see here, you could just see how much it hurt him to unmask. And Kevin Nash wasn't even doing him any favors. Eventually, Rey would actually align himself with Eddie Guerrero, turning heel, and along with Billy Kidman and Conan and Tori Wilson, they were collectively known as the Filthy Animals. To describe this group, well, DX, I guess. They were pulling pranks and wanted to piss off the other stars, and at one point, they literally buried Ric Flair in the Las Vegas desert, and the story wasn't resolved. Flair didn't even return the favor upon his return, and that's another story for another day. Eventually, Eddie departed for the WWF, and Rey continued being a part of the faction up until WCW's demise. He even won the Cruiserweight Tag Team Championships on the final episode of Nitro. Anyways, Rey and Eddie in WWE occasionally faced one another. They were mostly on good terms, and in early 2005, they finally became a tag team. Rey Mysterio wanted a tag team partner in order to face the Basham Brothers at No Way Out, so he chose Latino Heat. Rey was vlogging before everyone else, showing that he was once again ahead of his time, and at No Way Out, the duo managed to capture the WWE Tag Team Championships. Eddie lied, cheated, and stole his way to victory, and Rey wasn't really in on the whole cheating thing, but after the Bashams tried doing it themselves, he was all in. Now, despite the victory, the title reign, though, was off to a rocky start. Rey accidentally 619'd Eddie during their first title defense, but nonetheless, they bounced back to retain the titles. The following week, though, Chavo Guerrero approached Rey Mysterio on an interesting topic. Chavo, he tried to make it seem like nothing before letting Rey know that he's beaten Eddie too many times over the last couple of months, and he let him know that Eddie keeps his friends close and his enemies closer. He believed that Eddie was going to strike eventually, and once again, he informed Rey that he cannot trust a Guerrero. A couple of weeks later, he did the exact same thing with Latino Heat. He called Eddie a disappointment to the family, and sure, you're the tag team champion. It's a great spot, but for you, Eddie Guerrero, no, that's not good. You were WWE champion the previous year heading into WrestleMania. Now what happened? Chavo believed that Eddie was holding back, and not only that, but Rey is holding Latino Heat back too. He then asked Eddie the number of times Rey has beaten him, and he was clearly irritated at that question. He just asked for his nephew to leave, and before leaving, Chavo let Eddie know that since he's holding back, then he should just stop calling himself a Guerrero. Tensions would slowly start to arise as later that night, Eddie had the match won, but Rey dropped a dime to take the pin for himself. Once again, Chavo stirred the pot. He once again stated that Rey was holding his uncle back. He believed stealing wasn't a Mysterio tradition, it was a Guerrero tradition. And despite their issues in the past, Chavo wanted Eddie to once again face Rey Mysterio in order to prove himself. So at this point, Eddie and Rey were all good. So Latino Heat decided that since they don't have a match at WrestleMania, they should face each other. Eddie made this match look so good in Rey's eyes, nobody could top it, history in the making, and Rey believed Eddie was joking initially. Once Eddie stood there, emotionless, dead in the eyes, staring at him, he accepted the match later that night. So at WrestleMania, for the first time ever, it was going to be tag team partner versus tag team partner. Rey Mysterio versus Eddie Guerrero. As for the match itself, I believe there was high expectations. As for reality, it was good, but not up to par with their WCW classics. It was a good opener, and there was no better choice to open the show, though. Despite Latino Heat's best shot, Rey caught him off guard with a Hurricanrana roll-up to win this thing. I watched this 100 times due to having the WrestleMania 21 DVD. It was good, but expectations were somewhere else. If you were like me and at the time you didn't see any of their WCW matches, you'd think this was really awesome. Eddie, though, showed sportsmanship after the match, and he shook his tag partner's hand. Okay, this is where things start to fall off for Rey and Eddie. On the April 7th, 2005 episode of SmackDown, Rey Mysterio faced JBL in a championship tournament of sorts. That match almost ended well for Rey Mysterio, but Eddie, after getting kicked by JBL, interfered right when the ref was counting to 2, and he cost Rey Mysterio the match. Eddie tried explaining things, but Rey was like, well, let me describe it to you simply. Say you forgot to save SVR 2006 on the PS2. It's as simple as that. Then to add fuel to the fire, Rey was left alone when the debuting Eminem assaulted him the following week. Eddie chants were heard loud and clear all over the Allstate Arena, and Carlito watched on too as Eminem hit the snapshot, sending a message to the tag champions, or in other words, Rey Mysterio. Eddie later that night was shocked at what had transpired, and Rey, he just wanted Eddie to leave and leave him alone too. He was still pissed from last week, and now his partner wasn't even there for him. Eddie cited car issues, ride issues and stuff like that, and Rey mentioned last week, and Eddie shed tears, I guess, that's what it looked like. He didn't want Rey to question the friendship. Eddie wanted to make it up for Rey, so he decided to dedicate his match against Kurt Angle in his honor. As expected, that match was amazing. But near the end, Rey interfered and tried to lie, cheat, and steal in Eddie's favor after Angle himself tried doing that. Then there was a lack of communication with one another. This benefited Angle greatly as he shoved Rey into Eddie, which ended up costing Latino Heat the title opportunity. So now there was tension there. They were going to reach a boiling point eventually. After Eminem spray painted his vehicle, Eddie Guerrero was hell-bent on destroying the duo in his tag team match the following week. That never came to fruition though, as he was distracted by Melina, and in the ring, Rey took a snapshot. What this meant was there was new tag team champions. Eddie couldn't believe it, and once again the story was Guerrero wasn't there for his partner. The broken duo began arguing, and at one point Eddie shoved Rey and the seeds were planted. Rey's reaction was like, say you finally won the title, but you lose it that same night, I guess. I just wanted to mention that, I'm sorry. He proceeded to return the favor to Eddie, who clearly took it to heart. Rey was ready to square up. He refused to be punked out like that. The following week, though, it seemed like everything was all good. Eddie had a little chance with Rey before Chavo entered the room. Eddie wanted Chavo to just leave, and he once again started to stir the pot. Latino, he straight up told his nephew that he's jealous of the relationship Rey and himself have with each other. He claimed they're familiar in the ring, and Chavo told him Rey isn't a Guerrero like himself, and Eddie decided to offer his rebuttal. He said that every time he was jumped, Rey was there. Every time he extended his hand, Rey was there, and this seemed to shut up Chavo. Eddie gave a heartfelt promo about his family, his familia, and he considered Rey to be his family. Chavo once again got involved, but Rey shut him up. Rey then said that he knows Eddie too damn well, and 100%, even though Eddie's not there in the head, he's there in the heart. So now they're on the same page. But then during the match, Eddie, it seemed like there was a different person there. He just didn't give a damn about Rey. He watched on as Eminem proceeded to attack him despite the victory. They threw him around like a lawn dart, and Michael Cole and Taz were calling for him to just do something about it. Is this family to you? On the May 5th, 2005 episode of SmackDown, a very distraught Rey Mysterio came down to the ring and straight up called Eddie a very great liar. He refused to be his fool, and he called him out. Eddie finally came out showing no emotion while the fans booed. Eddie sucks chants intensified, and Rey asked if there's something he's gotta say. His response, I've got nothing to say to you. Ray mentioned how Eminem beat him up like a dog, and he asked Eddie about the brotherhood, the familia, and Eddie didn't really seem to care that much. Ray said that words don't mean a damn thing to him anymore, and seeing as Eddie doesn't want to talk, maybe he wants to fight. He proceeded to shove Eddie, and Latino Heat claimed he never laid a hand on Ray, just like he did right now. Mr. 619 mentioned Eminem, and he wanted to fight. Like, he didn't give a damn. Whatever Eddie was going to say, he didn't believe him. He clearly lied to him the previous week. He even slapped Eddie to initiate a fight, but it didn't happen because Latino Heat didn't want to fight. It's as simple as that. He then mentioned Eddie's fear towards the losses, and he stopped dead in his tracks, but not for long, and he just slowly walked to the back. A couple of minutes later, Ray demanded a match with Eddie. Chavo then barged in and said Eddie's treated Ray like a brother. He even told him that he'll never be a Guerrero, and all of a sudden they brawled. Eventually, Teddy Long booked a street fight between these two for the end of the night. Before the match, Chavo tried getting in Eddie's head, stating that if someone slapped him in the face, then he'll teach him a lesson. As for that match, Chavo and Eminem jumped Ray. Eddie saw enough, and he finally made the save. The fans were cheering, and finally Ray and Eddie were reunited. Eddie then lifted Ray and hugged him, and they were all together, but then Eddie clotheslined the hell out of Rey Mysterio, and he dished out an all-out assault. The beating initially was normal, but as the seconds went on, as the blood began to drip to the ground, it turned into a nightmare. Eddie even ripped off Ray's mask. He began brutalizing the face. He's beating him from pillar to post, and in the end, he decided to deliver a vicious suplex on Rey Mysterio on the steel steps. Like, I don't think I've ever seen that before this. Never seen someone get suplexed like that. The fans in the arena were stunned, and looking back, whenever Rey Mysterio's mask is ripped, you know it was a destructive assault. After this, Eddie was giving a new theme song, Ringtone 1, and on the following episode of SmackDown, Eddie Guerrero explained his actions. Now, I haven't done this in a while, but here's the promo. This is about Rey Mysterio. He wanted a fight. I gave him a fight. I gave him the fight of his life. And do you think that makes me happy? Do you think that makes me happy? I didn't want to do it, Ray. Why did you make me do it? It's your fault. I never wanted to lay a hand on you, and look what you made me do. But you know what, Ray? Blessings come in disguise. You see, I realized something last week. My eyes were open, and I realized what you were doing. And not only you, all of these people. I realized that each and every one of you are living vicariously through me. You were stealing my passion, my love, my energy. You were stealing my Latino heat. But as of last week, not anymore, because I got it back. I got it all back, and I like it. I like what I'm feeling, Ray. So I've got a little piece of advice for you. See, nothing and no one is going to ever take away my Latino heat again. So I want you to listen real close. Look at me when I'm talking to you. I want you to think. Think of your family, Aaliyah and Dominic, your son and your daughter. Don't make me hurt them, Ray. Don't make me hurt their daddy again. Don't make me take away their papa, because I promise you this. You promise to make your return at Judgment Day. I advise against it. You return at Judgment Day. Remember right now, I have your blood on my hands. At Judgment Day, if you come back, I'll have your life. Damn. It felt like a different person. It wasn't the same man. This man was haunted by the losses. His shoulders were down on the mat, and he just couldn't beat this guy. It was haunting him. It was eating him. And what was he supposed to do about it? Easy. Regain that fury, that Latino heat temper. As for their match, it was pretty good. Ray in WWE wasn't exactly a very pissed off man. That was until this match. Eddie, though he was absolutely vicious in the ring, he was remorseless. The injured ribs weren't exactly helping Ray in this match. He applied a couple of holds in order to tear Ray apart, but he was resilient. The problem for Eddie, though, was the fact that he just couldn't beat Ray on this night. Chavo interfered, and this didn't benefit Eddie. As a matter of fact, it was Ray who was the aggressor at this point. Hit the 619, but Latino, he blasted the hell out of Rey Mysterio with a chair to cause the DQ. He proceeded to deliver several chair shots to the back, and he actually enjoyed this. Despite the assaults, Ray refused to let this stop him from returning the favor. He said that Eddie should have taken his life because as long as he's breathing, he was going to make Eddie pay. Yeah, about that, Eddie, before a battle royal the following week, he repeatedly blasted Mysterio in the back with a chair. Later on, though, Ray returned and he actually eliminated Eddie Guerrero. Ray made it to the final two, but Kurt Angle resorted to a low blow to win this one. By the way, it was a winner's choice battle royal. And if Ray won, he would have faced Eddie the following week because that was his choice. Eventually, Ray actually returned the favor. He interfered in Eddie's match with Paul London, and he delivered some vicious, some brutal chair shots of his own. It seemed like Ray was possessed as he was trying to trap himself with Eddie inside a loading dock, I guess. But Latino, he managed to barely escape. On the June 23rd, 2005 episode of SmackDown, these two finally clashed. Ray, before the match, expressed just how much he despised Eddie Guerrero. He enjoyed hitting him with a chair across the back, and he couldn't wait to get into the ring with him. As for Eddie, he believed no one believed in him. He said that he knows what he's capable of, and Rey himself doesn't know what he's capable of. Now, I watched this match earlier, and so it's fresh in my mind. First of all, Eddie was bruised from the waist because Rey Mysterio delivered some vicious chair shots, but as for the match, it was slow. Eddie was keeping his composure, and he was actually wrestling. Rey did have the upper hand in the early going, but then Eddie forcefully changed the tempo of the match, as you could see here. He literally shoved Rey off the ropes and to the outside, and from there, it was all Eddie. Rey just struggled to get back into it. It wasn't until 3/4 of the match passed that Rey finally made a comeback. Eddie, though, would bounce back, but not for long, as Rey sent Eddie into that familiar position. I guess it was deja vu. 619. Boom. 1, 2, 3. It doesn't matter what Eddie does. Rey is just clutch. He was unstoppable. At the end of the show, though, Eddie had a smile on his face. Josh Matthews the following week asked Eddie about the smile, and Latino Heat said that he knows the truth. He claimed that Rey was going to get on his knees and beg him not to reveal the truth. So Eddie came out later that night. Tez said that he wouldn't want Eddie to be his enemy. He said that he didn't know what this man is capable of, and Guerrero, he mentioned the loss that occurred the previous week before shifting his focus elsewhere. He even documented his journey to this place. About this, well, it involved one of Rey Mysterio's family members. So Eddie's chilling at the playground, and as you can see here, he paid a visit to Rey Mysterio's son, Dominic. He then asked Rey if his son likes secrets, bedtime stories, and he lured Dominic with candy. Now, as you can see here, Dominic, he really trusted Eddie because he knew him very well. Uncle Eddie. Latino Heats then asked him if he likes secrets and bedtime stories. He promised to tell Dominic a bedtime story he'll never forget, and the look on his face. Never seen something more sinister during 2005 than that. This led to Rey Mysterio coming out as he didn't want the secret coming out. Rey told him not to go there. Eddie kept teasing him before forcing Rey to get on his knees, and this was after provoking him. Rey never tried to fight Eddie at this moment, as this could have led to the secret getting revealed. Eddie said that nobody beats him. He always comes out on top no matter how it happens, and Rey got on his knees forcefully. Eddie brought out some candy, the same candy he handed Dominic, and he proceeded to spit that candy out and forcefully feed it to Rey Mysterio. Over the next couple of weeks, Eddie forced Rey to do what he sees fit, such as teaming up with him, opening the ropes for him, and forcing Rey to bring Dominic to the pay-per-view. Eventually, Eddie's wife tried to convince him to just stop what he's doing. Eddie was teasing the secret, and this brought out his family. That's how bad it was. He was telling him to go to the back. Vicky snatched the mic away and told him that she was out here to calm him down. She tried telling him Rey was a good man, and this pushed him over the edge. He literally walked his family to the back and embarrassed himself in front of a couple of people. Hardcore Holly even tried to calm him down, but that didn't work out. He was raging and shouting, and he even got shoved himself. It was a very uncomfortable situation for the Guerreros. As for their match at the Bash, if Eddie wins, then he reveals the secret, but if Rey wins, Eddie reveals nada, nothing. Match itself, good. It's just weird how they set a kid right there. At one point, Eddie even used Dominic as a shield. In this match, it was absolutely detestable. Rey was getting tortured, but he had everything to lose, so he just couldn't give up. Eddie continued to approach Dominic, and this got Rey furious. Near the end, it seemed like Eddie had it in the bag. He had a vicious brainbuster. Dominic was starting to cry, and Eddie hit the frog splash. He then proceeded to blow one of the biggest leads of 2005 to Rey Mysterio, as you can see here. Eddie was seething, and Rey, well, he was lucky. So all was good now. Dominic was curious, though, as to what the secret was, so Eddie spilled the beans. Now, sure, Eddie, he promised not to reveal the secret, and even though Rey beat him at the Great American Bash, but in the end, he wins, and by the way, he lied. Eddie said that he felt like telling a bedtime story. Rey was shouting for him not to go there, but he did. He started getting pissed, and just as he approached Eddie, Latino Heats revealed that Rey isn't Dominic's father. Eddie Guerrero is. He's his poppy. Dominic started asking if this was true, and Rey didn't have the wherewithal to just admit it. Dominic started to walk away, and for some reason he hopped the barricade, which I don't get to this day. Eddie then entered the ring and asked if he was that bad. And seeing as Rey didn't want to hear the rest of the story, he was going to finish it, because Rey went looking for his son. Okay, so chapter 1 in this bedtime story. Eddie used to party back when he split with his wife, and one day one of those, he literally called him that, sluts, told him she was pregnant. He didn't want anything to do with the kid, and neither did the girl, so he told her that he would take care of it. While this was going on, Rey was shooting a lot of blanks. Oh my god. So when the kid came into the world, he gave the Bambino to his best friend, to Rey, and that baby was named Dominic. Eddie said that he never handed them any adoption papers, and he said that instead of being daddy, he was Uncle Eddie. He was loving the story, and just like the end of Dora, he asked us if it was great. He felt like a lot of weight was lifted off his shoulders, and he also teased Chapter 2 for next week. The commentary team were appalled with what transpired, it was remorseless, and you just don't reveal this stuff to the public. That's what the commentary team believed. Now, if you thought the story was crazy right now, think again. The following week, Eddie debuted the I'm Your Papi t-shirt, and he also brought a special friend from the past. At the end of the night, Eddie Guerrero revealed that the woman is going to help him finish Chapter 2. She handed Rey Chapter 2, and he demanded that Rey read it himself. After Rey was left speechless, Eddie himself read the official custody papers. That's what it was. What that means was that next week, Rey has to bring Dominic down to the ring because the courts found out that he is legally and biologically Dominic's true father. And then Rey's going to have to bring him and turn him over to Eddie Guerrero. Eddie gave him a chance, though, as he wanted Rey to show his love towards his, not Rey's son, but his son. Rey then cut a promo about his kid, how he was there through the sacrifices, through the trials and tribulations, and he was going to reveal the secret to him when he was older, but Eddie just had to run his mouth. He made Dominic feel like he's dead. He begged Eddie not to hurt Dominic anymore, and even went on his knee. As for Eddie, it seemed like he felt the same pain Rey went through, except he was joking. Eddie then revealed that the woman wasn't the mother, but she was his legal attorney. Eddie continued bragging about how he's Dominic's father. He called Rey a liar, and unlike Rey, he never lies. Eddie then said that Dominic is the son he's always lunged for, and he's going to be the one who carries the Guerrero legacy. And next week, Dominic's going to be his son, and Rey's going to do nothing about it. Next week, Rey's going to watch Eddie take Dominic back, and basically at this point, Rey's world was falling apart. The following week, Child Services got involved and Eddie was paranoid. He twisted the story to make it seem like Dominic was living a life of lies, and he made it seem like he was the victim. So now it's time for Chapter 3 in Eddie's bedtime story. Latino Heat said that Chapter 3 doesn't have to be explained. He said that the social worker is here to ensure everything's going to happen in Dominic's best interests, which means Dominic comes home to Papi. He then called for Rey Mysterio and his wife to bring out his son Dominic, and out they came. Eddie's sucks chants were loud and clear, and Dominic was terrified. Eddie claimed it was mind games on their part, and he began saying that he's his biological father, and Dominic's coming home. He said that it's the right thing to happen, and the way he says it, like, give me my son, it strikes a nerve. Eddie then began shouting at the social worker, and she just stood there appalled, I guess. Rey then said that no one wins in this situation, not he, not Eddie, and certainly not Dominic. Eddie didn't want to hear anything from Rey. He preferred for him to just learn from his son and just shut the hell up. Rey then mentioned Eddie's trials and tribulations and how he overcame all of that. Rey said that he was proud of the fact that Eddie has beaten every obstacle that came his way, except for Rey Mysterio. Eddie tried to deflect all this away, mentioning Dominic, my kid, blah, blah, blah. And Rey asked Eddie if splitting his family apart is victory. Rey called it a cheap excuse, and he said that there's two things that Eddie can't cheat and steal away from him: the love of his son and a victory from Rey Mysterio. Latino Heat told Rey to just give up, and Rey began bringing the verbal smackdown, stating that Eddie could never beat him, and if he takes away Dominic, he'll never have an opportunity to face him. And when he's inducted into the Hall of Fame under his name, it's going to say, never beaten Rey Mysterio. Rey let Eddie know that even if he takes away Dominic, his father was never good a wrestler as Rey Mysterio, and the only thing he's going to know about his father is that he was chicken. This started to push Eddie over the edge. He told Rey that if anyone knows he isn't chicken, then it's him. Rey wanted him to prove it. He wanted Eddie to prove that he can beat him, and this time he wants it to be Rey versus Eddie at SummerSlam for the custody of Dominic, unless he's chicken. Eddie ended up accepting before reminding Rey that he's already won because Dominic comes home with him tonight. Yeah, about that, well, the social worker was petrified at this situation, and seeing as these two were tearing each other's heads off verbally, she decided to take Dominic into foster care. Rey let Dominic know everything's going to be okay before Eddie, his real daddy, said that after SummerSlam, he's coming home, and then he'll know what being a Guerrero is really about. Some fans, some were chanting, na 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 na, hey, 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 goodbye. I don't even know why. Rey and his wife were living a nightmare while Eddie, he was really enjoying what was going on. On the final SmackDown before SummerSlam, Eddie Guerrero came out to discuss this match. He believed that there was one match to settle this dispute, and it was a ladder match. Dominic's custody papers will be hanging up there, and he said that he loves his son Dominic, and he's lived with the truth his entire life, while Rey didn't. He said that Rey has denied Dominic his legacy, his privilege of being a Guerrero, and unlike Rey, he'll never do something like that with his son. So now all of a sudden, Eddie's good. The truth always prevails over lies, huh? He then claimed that he's going to climb that ladder, not because he wants to hurt Rey Mysterio, but for every father that loves his son. He's going to climb this ladder for Dominic, who's going to be the best Guerrero of them all. Eddie sucks chants intensified as Latino Heat sent a message to his biological son. He claimed Dominic's going to come home with Poppy. As for Rey, he said that he felt the bastard everywhere he goes. He blamed Eddie for all of this, and he called him an SOB. He said that while Eddie might be Dominic's biological father, he's his family, and after SummerSlam, Dominic is coming home with his real father. As for the match at SummerSlam, first of all, look how ridiculous this looks. Like, out of context, what are you going to be thinking? The custody of Dominic. They're fighting over a kid, literally. I have never seen something like this, ever. Before the match, Vicky tried to talk some sense into Eddie, who clearly was in his element. Or out, depends on your perspective. He tried to downplay everything, I want my son. And she tried convincing him not to do it. She began saying that the man she married had a heart of gold, and he then spun the story into something else. He believed his own wife didn't believe he could beat Rey, and he shouted for her to just get the hell out of here. Anyways, Dominic sat in the front row to witness this match. Match itself, some hated it, but the majority liked it, including myself. It was story-driven, so the match quality was going to be a little off. They were also botching a couple of moves. At one point, Eddie had the match won when Dominic tried shaking the ladder. Latino Heat was then going to teach him a lesson. Yeah, he was going to teach him a lesson right there in front of millions watching worldwide. But Rey made the save. Rey tried grabbing the briefcase, but he fell back down in the hands of Eddie, who connected with the powerbomb. The fans began chanting, "Eddie, Eddie," by the sounds of it, and then it seemed like Rey was done. He was going to watch Eddie unhook the briefcase, but Vicky Guerrero ran down to the ring, except that wasn't what happened. Rey managed to tip over the ladder, and Eddie was going nuts. Why? Either A, he suffered an injury, or B, Vicky was supposed to come out earlier. She didn't. She missed her cue, and it took her about 2 minutes to finally come out. Eddie refused to forfeit, and she took matters into her own hands and tipped over the ladder. Rey then positioned the ladder, climbed the rungs. She then wrestled Eddie away from the ladder, and Rey unhooked the briefcase. So who's that jumping out the sky? Eddie was fuming. Like, his plan, it was foiled. Rey, though, wasn't done. He rammed that briefcase right into Eddie's face after the match. So now Rey was reunited with his son. There was going to be no loopholes, nothing like that. Now, you might think this was the end, right? Well, think again. Eddie was given one more chance to beat Rey Mysterio on the first ever Friday Night SmackDown inside a steel cage. Before the match, Eddie mentioned SummerSlam, and he believed that when his wife pushed that ladder, he lost his family, he lost his kids, his wife, he lost everything. And sure, he could sit back and say it's Rey's fault, but it isn't. It's Eddie Guerrero's fault that he lost everything, because he had Rey at the edge of defeat so many times, but he toyed with him and he made a mistake. Eddie promised not to make that same mistake again, and inside that steel cage, Rey's going to have to face him, and he wanted Rey to reflect on this. He asked him the question, how can he be someone who's lost everything? Like, he has got nothing left to lose. As for that match, once again, enjoyable. I watched it several months ago. Eddie debuted the Gangsta Lane song here, I believe. And this time around, by the looks of it, in my opinion, my perspective, Eddie wasn't personal. He was just out to win. He already lost everything due to his mistakes, but now he was looking to finally beat Rey Mysterio. And no, he wasn't trying to be flashy or anything like that, showing off. Simply put, he wanted the W. One thing I liked about the story was the fact that Eddie actually had the match won. He walked out of the cage, but then he decided to go for the frog splash. 1, 2, 3. Why did I like it? Because Eddie elected to pin Rey in order to win. He wasn't satisfied with just a win, walking out of the cage. He wanted to put Rey's shoulders down to the mat for the 3 count. Now all was good for Eddie. He could finally focus elsewhere. So basically, story was, Eddie wanted the win. He didn't care if it came at the expense of Rey's family or even his family. So yeah, that's it. Overall, this story, well, it was wacky. I enjoyed it. If it was 2 other guys, I personally believe it would have been as good as it was. These 2 are certainly capable of making it awesome. And despite how wacky and wild it was, I was entertained, to be honest. I wasn't bored of a single moment. And yeah, sure, all that stuff was goofy, over the top. If it was 2 other guys, it probably wouldn't have been as good as it was. Matches, they were pretty good. They weren't on the level of WCW matches. So yeah, that's it for this video. Make sure you hit a frog splash on the like button and perhaps the 619 on the subscribe button. Peace. I'm out.